Tonight, a St. John's man accused of murdering his wife last week makes his first court appearance. That story and...
The city of St. John's is still cleaning up all of this snow from the weekend with wet weather on the way.
The rain will add a level of complexity that we really don't need right now.
The folks in Central and West are more comfortable with snow, manage it much better.
I'll have that story coming up on Here and Now. A 59-year-old man from Corner Brook suffers a major cardiac arrest at home.
I kept looking at her and saying, I'm okay, right? But apparently it's a hell of a lot more serious than what it was, what I thought it was, right?
Now, the Heart and Stroke Foundation says that there are more and more cardiac arrests happening in people under the age of 65.
We were taken back by how much more significant this problem is.
That story tonight on Here and Now.
I'm live at St. John's International Airport tonight, awaiting the arrival of Brad Gushue, fresh off his 6th Brier victory. I'm Mike Moore. I'll have that story coming up.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. A St. John's man accused of murdering his wife last week stayed silent when his case was called in court today. Here and Now's Terry Roberts has this update on the death of Nariman Abdul Al Ghafour, a mother of 5 young children.
Ibrahim Al-Ahmad is still in hospital, guarded by corrections officers. So today he was connected to the court by telephone.
The accused murderer did not say a single word. 3 times the corrections officer said his name. Ibrahim, Ibrahim, Ibrahim. No response. The guard said Al-Ahmad did acknowledge that he understood the interpreter, who was translating the proceedings into Arabic.
Public defender Dan Fury told Judge Jennifer Mercer not to expect any remarks from the accused. And Fury asked that the matter be set over until Tuesday because Al-Ahmad had not had any meaningful contact with a defense lawyer. This is the abandoned house on Liam Drive in Outer Cove, where police allege Ibrahim Al-Ahmad killed his wife, Nariman Abdul Al Ghafour, on the morning of Tuesday, March 5th. The couple is originally from Syria, lived in Canada for nearly a decade, and had 5 young children. It's believed Al-Ahmad abducted Al Ghafour from their Virginia Park neighborhood in St. John's and took her 5 kilometers to Liam Drive in a blue Hyundai Elantra. The police were notified after a man matching Al-Ahmad's description entered a business next door to the abandoned house. A witness told CBC that Al-Ahmad was covered in blood and had wounds to his neck and wrist. Al Ghafour's body was later discovered inside the old house. Al-Ahmad was under a court order to stay away from his wife and children. Court documents paint a picture of a household torn apart by allegations of abuse.
We're talking charges of assault with a weapon, forcible confinement, and uttering death threats. All this in the months before Al Ghafour's death. And while all these charges were working their way through the courts, Al-Ahmad was twice released from custody since mid-December. Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, a Supreme Court judge has ordered St. John's to release the total amount of payments it made after a series of workplace harassment complaints in 2021. That's when the city kicked the Newfoundland Growlers hockey team out of the Mary Brown Centre. Now, at the time, the mayor said it was investigating allegations of disrespectful workplace conduct by team ownership and staff, allegations the Growlers denied. The dispute was resolved and the team returned to the rink later that fall, but the controversy sparked a series of payments to city employees and the team. The Telegram filed an access information request, but the city refused to say how much was paid out. Now, a judge has ordered them to reveal the payout amount. Well, a West Coast man has learned that every second counts when someone is experiencing cardiac arrest. It happened to him this fall. Across the country, the number of cardiac arrests is much higher than previously estimated. And despite the surge, the Heart and Stroke Foundation says this province still isn't doing enough to arm people with life-saving support. Here Now's Colleen Connors explains.
This is as much as Kevin McCarthy can do these days. he has to take it easy on the heavy lifting. It was in the same spot in late November when he felt a pain in his chest and started to sweat. What happened next was a blur. His wife called 911.
I was apparently not non-responsive, no pulse, no heartbeat, whatever, and they used the AED on me, and they gave me a shock. They got a pulse, and they worked on me, and they lost me. And then they went on again to give me another shot of electricity to restart me again, and I'm not sure it was after one, if not, I think it might have been a second time that they got a pulse.
Paramedics revived him 3 times on his living room floor. In hospital in St. John's, he eventually had 2 stents put in.
I kept looking over and saying, I'm okay, right? But apparently it's a hell of a lot more serious than what it was, what I thought it was, right?
And he's not alone. New data from the Heart and Stroke Foundation says this is happening an estimated 60,000 times each year. Someone going into cardiac arrest, often at home or in a public place. Up from 35,000 in 2020.
That even within the organization ourselves, we were taken back by how much more significant this problem is. And especially the emphasis on this report, of course, is on out-of-hospital cardiac arrests. The other thing I would note as well is when you're thinking about that number, 60,000 individuals a year, that's roughly 1 every 9 minutes.
And nearly half of those cardiac arrests are occurring in people under 65. McCarthy was 58. Taplin believes he survived because of fast-acting CPR and paramedics using a defibrillator, a life-saving measure that he feels is still lacking here. Newfoundland and Labrador is the only province in the country without a registry database, which Taplin says can make all the difference in an emergency.
Someone has a cardiac arrest and there's a dispatcher on the other end of the line who has an ability to say, here's your nearest AED. We don't have that right now. And that coordinated piece is really important so that when folks show up, they have all the information they need to support that person.
Taplin wants government to act and fast, especially in rural parts of the province where it's much harder to access emergency medical services for cardiac arrest. As for McCarthy, he says he's feeling much better. He's changed his diet and walks more. While McCarthy is learning how to slow down, he does have some words of warning for anyone that hears his story. If you have any chest pain at all, don't wait. Be sure to get checked out. Colleen Connors, CBC News, Corner Brook.
Newfoundland and Labrador's health minister says his plan to hire registered psychiatric nurses has been delayed. Last summer, Tom Osborne said there would soon be a pilot project to bring the specialized nurses that work in many other Canadian provinces here, but it never happened. Here in Now's Mark Quinn reports.
We are expanding on mental health resources in the province, and you know how we provide services to individuals with mental health and addictions issues. So there is an absolute need for registered psychiatric nurses in this province.
Health Minister Tom Osborne says the province had hoped to start a pilot project using registered psychiatric nurses last fall, but it couldn't go ahead because there was no way to license and regulate them here.
Because of legislative impediments, that wasn't able to be carried out as we had hoped. So we obviously looked at a more permanent solution, which is fully regulating the profession in this province.
Osborne says they're just now developing the legislation to allow this province's nurses' college to regulate psychiatric nurses.
So the work on the regulatory and potentially legislative changes in this province is now going full steam ahead in the department. I will say with cautious optimism, we anticipate the legislation being introduced in the fall sitting of the House, at which point we can move full speed ahead as a regulated body as opposed to a pilot program.
It's not possible to say exactly when psychiatric nurses will be working here, but Osborne says the province will move swiftly after the necessary legislative changes are made. He expects psychiatric nurses will improve mental health care and help address the ongoing nurse shortage in this province. But Newfoundland and Labrador will be competing with other provinces like Saskatchewan, where there's great demand for psychiatric nurses too. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, mountains of snow are still covering street corners and sidewalks in St. John's after a stormy weekend. The city is still cleaning up while the province's transportation minister says people in Central and on the West Coast are better at handling the snow. Here Now's Heather Gillis reports.
It's tricky navigating narrow St. John's streets today for drivers edging around steep snowbanks. For pedestrians too, where sidewalks are buried deep. In some places, waiting for the bus means standing in the street, and some are sick of it.
And my mother is around the bay and she got a shovel. Her and my aunt got a shovel up a very long driveway. And it sickens me.
That's a big problem for the people, because old people, sick people, for the children need to be clean.
St. John's Mayor Danny Breen says crews have all the streets cleared, and now they're working on widening roads and removing snow. But Breen says it takes time and patience.
Crews are working, all our equipment's out, all our crews are out, we have all our resources put on it.
The storm this past weekend was about 5 centimeters shy of what we had during Snowmageddon, and Mayor Breen says they've even had to call in contractors to help with the cleanup.
And that means dipping into snow clearing reserves the city has in its $25 million budget.
This is an expensive operation. If you look at a snow clearing, a snow removal exercise we did a few weeks ago in Kenmount Terrace, that was about a $350,000 contract.
Breen says the city kept all its snowplows working during the storm, while the province had to take some of theirs off the highway. But that's not the only difference Transportation Minister John Abbott sees.
The folks in Central West are more comfortable with snow, manage it much better than the motorists on the East Coast and on the Avalon, who really are looking for dry pavement all the time.
Meanwhile, the city is preparing for rain tonight, clearing catch basins and drains to prevent flooding, making clearing the capital city even more complicated. Heather Gillis, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, that storm forced many cancellations, including flights. The St. John's International Airport says it didn't close any runways, and the airlines decide when to cancel flights. Meanwhile, the airport is still cleaning up all that snow.
It was pretty substantial here in the past couple of days. Today, coming into work this morning, as an example, the roads have been widened, the sidewalks have been tended to. The parking lots will take a little bit more time. You can certainly, all passengers who park can certainly access. They might find a little extra snow around their cars depending on what time they come back. We actually do have a supply of shovels available upon exit at the parking booth for anyone who might need to borrow it. Please just bring it back for the next person. But, you know, certainly on the air side, the runways and the taxiways and whatnot had a lot of snow. So we always get it to the operational level, and now today we're pushing snow back and carrying snow away again.
Yeah, so certainly quite a bit of snow out there. I'm just going to step out of the way to tell you how much snow fell across a good portion of the Avalon and then parts of eastern Newfoundland as well. Anywhere from 40 to as much as 90 centimeters fell in a very short period of time from the 7th to the 9th there. And you can see as you head towards Central, though, those numbers significantly less than that, only about 22 centimeters in Gander. You don't see St. John's on there because I wanted to compare the two storms, the two big storms that we've seen over the last couple of years, Snowmageddon and this last storm. So you can see, as Heather mentioned, not a huge difference in the amount of snow, but the two other huge differences, well, three of them. The max wind was 157 kilometers per hour with Snowmageddon, so significant wind, otherwise 80 kilometers per hour. The other thing was we had a significant amount of snow on the ground before the storm even happened, 42 centimeters versus 3 centimeters with this one. Snow depth after, you can see that 70 to 117. And really the duration, it was another 12 hours almost with this last storm. So otherwise, we've got more rain on the way, some snow for parts of the province. I'll get into all that when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, about a dozen people at the tent encampment beside downtown St. John's Park are safe after Friday's major storm. The storm dumped mountains of snow across eastern Newfoundland. One Tent City for Change volunteer says while the group did make preparations to ensure people were warm and fed, the city closed the public washrooms in Bannerman Park.
Morale was quite high. People are fed and warm. They have what they wanted, what they needed. And so that keeps the spirits high. We do a lot of prep, as opposed to the government who shows up the day before and scrambles to try to get people into shelters that are often full and don't accept people, even though they've been told to go there, they're turned back. We prepare, as soon as we know there's a storm coming, we try to gather any food. We'll ask for donations of extra blankets, food, monetary donations so that we can purchase propane for heating. So we'll try and gather as much of that as we can and distribute it to the resident protesters here. We've been down here for 5 months. We've gone through a lot of propane. We have an idea how much we're going to burn through in the course of a night, 2 nights, or 3 nights. And we were well supplied and everyone had enough. Obviously, there's always a concern with heating, which we could resolve easily if the government would provide us with power. We could use electric heat. We've asked for the decency of a bathroom. The bathroom was closed during the storm. Folks that were here went to the bathroom after midnight, and I'm guessing the security guards who were stationed here 24 hours a day went home due to the storm, and fair enough for their safety. But the government's response, instead of leaving the bathroom available, just the basic decency of a bathroom in the middle of a snowstorm, they locked it up. How does that not show that government's not only incapable, but unwilling to provide for people in the way that the community is? I think the proof is in the pudding that a dozen folks feel safer here than they do in the government institutions. So, that to me speaks volumes, right? That they're saying we're not going to go into these temporary shelters, these warming centers. We want safe, affordable housing. And we're willing to stay out in a storm that brings 75 centimeters of snow to show our determination that this is what we deserve.
Well, the company that owns the Telegram newspaper says it plans to file for creditor protection. Saltwire owns newspapers across Atlantic Canada. In a press release today, the company says it's been trying to overcome financial challenges, including a multi-million-dollar lawsuit, a court decision requiring it to contribute $2.6 million to a pension fund, and competition by multinational social media networks. The company says it has caused unsupportable strain on the business. Now, in that statement, the company says it wants to assure all stakeholders, including its employees, subscribers, advertisers, and distribution partners, that operations will continue as usual. It says the filing is a proactive step towards restructuring the company's finances and building a more sustainable future. Well, Memorial University and the Lecturers Union have carved out a last-minute tentative deal, narrowly avoiding a strike. The union, known as Lumen, represents MUN's per-course instructors. The main sticking point for the union was wages. Lumen says details of the agreement can't be shared publicly until it's ratified by their members, and that could happen as early as tonight. Okay, so we're going to take you back to St. John's International Airport, where curling royalty is about to arrive. Brad Gushue and Mark Nichols of Team Canada are returning to St. John's at this hour after winning their 6th Brier last night in Regina. And our Mike Moore is on standby. So, Mike, what's the scene like there right now?
Well, the place is filling up a little bit. There's definitely some anticipation growing. There's definitely a buzz throughout Newfoundland and Labrador right now as we're waiting for Brad Gushue and Mark Nichols to, I think, get their bags. And it's understandable. The Brier win last night was a big one. Team Canada beat Saskatchewan at home in Regina. That was a 9-5 victory. Saskatchewan came just that close to ending a 44-year drought, but no luck. Now, this is Gushue Rink's 3rd straight Brier win and 6th in the last 8 years alone. That puts Gushue, Jeff Walker, Mark Nichols in a tie with Alberta curling legend Randy Ferbey for all-time Brier wins. And that also makes Gushue the first man to skip 6 teams to a national championship. The win also puts the rink in good position for the Winter Olympics. A top 6 ranking at the World Championships in Switzerland later this month will secure a berth in the 2025 Olympic trials. Now we're hearing the team's getting close. Everyone's departed the plane. They're picking up their bags. But while we wait, we spoke with Brad at the halfway part of his journey home in Toronto earlier today. And here's what he had to say.
Tired. We had a good night after we won last night. Didn't get any sleep. So, yeah, definitely tired. But also the adrenaline is kind of gone from the win last night and kind of on that high that we had towards the end of the week. So definitely feeling it today.
It's a win and a 6th Canadian championship.
It's pretty crazy. It took me a long time to win the first one, and someone asked me, did I ever think I'd win 6? And the only time I ever thought about winning 6 was after we won 5. So you take it kind of one step and 1 year at a time, and we've had a great run over the last 8 years to win 6 times, and it just shows what kind of team we have, and how special a group it is, and it's fun to be a part of. I think we're all very hardworking. We work well together. Particularly myself, Mark, and Jeff. We've been together for so long. We kind of know what each other is thinking, what our strengths and weaknesses are, and EJ's jumped in pretty seamlessly, and it's been working really well. It was an interesting game. I thought we started off really well. We played a great first 5 ends, and then after the break in the 5th end, we came out and probably had one of our worst ends that we played all year, and gave up a steal 2. And fortunately, in the 7th end, we turned around and got 2 right back on a couple of really nice shots. And at that point, we felt like we had the game under control and got our game back for the 8th and 9th end. So it was a bit of a roller coaster, but certainly it was nice to come out with a win, and it's also nice to not have it come down right to the last rock. From the beginning of the week until the end, we were just really trying to find our game. We struggled early with the ice and the rocks, and our confidence wasn't where we wanted it to be. And each and every game that we played, that confidence started to build, and eventually got to where we were in the final, where I thought we were very confident and very ready to play, and felt we could make any shot. We're going to keep going, but obviously our goal with this team is to get to the Olympics in 2026. And, between now and when we have that opportunity, if we can win another Brier or 2, that'd be wonderful. But it's been a pretty awesome run, and just trying to get as much out of it as I can at this point. The World Championships are in Switzerland, so this is the first time actually it'll be out of North America, because we missed one Worlds with the pandemic, and we've had a couple in Canada and then a couple down in Vegas. So this will be the first time in Europe, which will be fun. It'll be a new experience for us, and I've heard the event is sold out, so it should be a good one. I've been to Switzerland many times before, and I absolutely love the country, so I'm excited to go back. We leave in 2 weeks right now is when we're scheduled to leave, so there's really no prep time at all. By the time we recover for this, we're going to be turning around and going to the Worlds, which is going to be a challenge, but we've done it before. We know how it's going to feel, so it's going to be a long grind over the next month or so. And there's some really, really good teams. The World Championships, the level of play has increased dramatically over the last probably 5-6 years. So it's going to be a lot of really good competition, a lot of really good teams, and we're going to have to play well, at least as well as what we did at the Brier, to give ourselves a chance at winning.
So we're still camped out here at the airport, waiting for Brad Gushue and Mark Nichols to come out from their baggage claim. We hope to nab them both for in a few minutes for a quick chat. And Mike Moore reporting live in St. John's.
Well, have you ever wondered how to measure snow? We're going to talk about how to do that, and there's a lot of weather on the way, rain and snow. We'll get into all the forecast details when I come back.
This weather update is brought to you by the Healthcare Foundation Home Lottery. The bonus prize deadline is midnight, Friday, April 12th. Order tickets now at hcfhomelottery.ca.
I can't even tell you how many times I was asked how much snow has fallen in my backyard in certain areas around this province. Well, the answer is I have no idea unless someone measures it. And Kelly Butt here has been measuring the snow for nearly 14 years for St. John's East. So any of those snowfall amounts that you see, it's because of this guy. So Kelly, can you tell me a little bit, how you started doing this, why you started doing this?
Well, I've always been interested in the weather for, goodness, since I was a child. The variability of it, how it affects everyone and everything. So why not just jump in and help out?
Right. So today, not snowing, so we're not actually going to be able to measure any snow, but Kelly's going to show us how he does it. So let's just jump right into it.
Sure. So basically you need, 3 elements. You need a ruler, there's mine. You need a snowboard, which ideally you want it to be white. It's white because you don't want it landing on the pavement. You want it something that's going to keep the temperature around the air temperature that it is. The snow doesn't melt on it. Ideally flat, of course. And if you want to go a step further, a rain gauge. So basically when you're done with the snow, you can melt it down and get the snow water equivalent, which is, I'm sure some folks have heard where you get the density of the snow, whether it's fluffy, whether it's heavy, so on and so forth. So essentially you just dive right in. You put it, you measure your snowfall like that. Every hour, I usually do it on the half hour, essentially the same as the airport. So 8:30, 9:30, 10:30, so on and so forth. And every 6 hours, I actually will clear that board off. So I'll do a clear of the board, so that way you don't get compaction and snowfall. Now, if we do experience a change of precipitation, say from snow to ice pellets, freezing rain, and rain, I will clear it off before that 6 hour mark. And basically then, at the end of the snow event, I will tally the numbers, and there's your snowfall.
So you've got 3 tools here. Where do you get them?
So basically, I got these from what's called Ross Canada. Basically, it's a volunteer network for the United States and Canada. And folks can go on and can apply for this and essentially basically become volunteers of your own. So, a lot of folks are wondering, how much snow is in their backyard or their community. Well, the more observations we have, the more data there is in the system, which helps forecasters, whether it's verify forecasts, it helps, climatologists to see trends year over year, and other scientists as well, to kind of give a better idea of what's falling in terms of snowfall and rainfall and that in their backyards.
Yeah, and if you don't want to go through that step, that's basically just a piece of plywood, half an inch plywood that you would cut and paint white, and then that way you can, measure the snow.
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much.
Awesome, thanks Ashley, thank you.
Oh, that is so interesting, Ashley. And I understand that if folks want to do this at home, they can make their own board, right?
Yeah, exactly. Nice and easy. That, like I said, that piece of plywood painted white. And the biggest thing is putting it in an open area so that you don't get the drifting. And then just measure it with a ruler. Simple as that.
Very simple, yeah. So we've been talking about all the snow, and now we get to talk about all the rain that's on the way.
Yes, and the exciting thing with the time change is we get to see a view of the harbor now, because the sun doesn't set until after 7 o'clock. Unfortunately, a wet view of the harbor at the moment. That rain has moved in, and temperatures just a little bit above zero, which is why we're seeing that rain. But we've got some really gusty winds out there. Southeasterlies are gusting anywhere from 40 to 60 kilometers per hour here in St. John's, but those winds are going to continue to ramp up as we head through tonight. Latest radar picture showing that heavy rain across the Avalon starting to work its way towards the rest of eastern Newfoundland. So the Brier Peninsula, Bonavista Peninsula, even Clarenville, Terra Nova, we'll start to see that rain as we head through the next couple of hours. And then we've got that snow starting to spread across the rest of the province as well, and some heavy rain at that. So this is going to continue for a good chunk of tonight. Environment Canada has a number of warnings in place. Rainfall warnings for the Avalon, Brier Peninsula and the Canagra Peninsula. And then note there's snowfall warnings on top of rainfall warnings through Clarenville, Terra Nova and Bonavista North at this point. And that's because parts of the region will see snow and parts of the region will see rain from this. It really just depends on where that rain-snow line sets up. You head towards central, though, very much into that snow. Green Bay, White Bay, as well as Deer Lake and Northern Peninsula East under that snowfall warning. And then there's the wind warnings all along the west coast of the island. The Wreck House area seeing very strong winds, upwards of potentially 150 kilometers per hour. All along the south coast of the island, including the Avalon, and then up through the northeast coast. So these winds are going to continue through tonight. We're already seeing those winds topping off so far between 70 to 100 kilometers per hour along the south coast. Southwest coast rather, and then, like I said, around 60 to 70 kilometers per hour for eastern Newfoundland. So tonight we will see those winds generally ramp up, especially along the northeast coast, and they'll start to ease though for those of you along the south coast and the southwest coast, which is good. But the northern peninsula, you're going to see some strong winds as well. So we're talking 80 to 90 kilometers per hour. That will continue through tomorrow morning. We could be seeing exposed areas along the northeast coast, upwards of 110 kilometers per hour. And eventually those winds will ease. They're going to hang around though for the northern peninsula and along the strait there towards Labrador right into the afternoon hours on Wednesday. So here's the system. It's messy. So we've got all of that rain showing up there in the green. The blue is the snow. Watch that rain snow line. This is why Terra Nova, Clarenville, you're under the rain and the snow because it depends on where it sets up, where we see that colder air. But at this point, it is looking like what snow does fall will be very wet and very heavy, and will likely mix with rain at times as well. Now, the further you get towards central, especially along northern peninsula east and in the higher elevations, really towards central and the west coast, you will see mostly snow, and it will be significant because your snow is going to stick around through Tuesday and even into Wednesday. It looks like with this system, as it sinks further south again, we'll see another round of snow into Wednesday morning. So as far as snowfall amounts go, now this is just a big picture. As you can see, don't necessarily look at the numbers, but just where the bullseyes are. At the higher elevations, again, likely picking up the most, you'll see significant snow. And then otherwise through areas of central, 15 to 35 is where you're sitting, and the highest elevations will see the higher amounts. And then if you don't see any rain in the mix, that's where you'll get the higher elevations, the higher amounts rather. But you are looking at 15 on the low end, especially if you do see some rain. And you can see that heavy rain though, 30 to 50 millimeters, not out of the question for the Avalon. You'll likely see some flooding from this, minor flooding, because we did just see all of that snow, and the catch basins, as much as the city is trying to clean those out, need to be cleared for all that rain to go somewhere. So we're looking at temperatures tonight staying above zero for most of eastern Newfoundland, again with those windy conditions. Labrador snow for the most part, light snow. And as we head into tomorrow, those temperatures again will be above zero, 1 to 3 or 4 degrees right across the board. Winds will be brisk in the morning, but they will ease off, especially in the east. And up across Labrador, you're looking at your temperatures hovering around 1 or 2 degrees, a little cooler for the west. We'll talk about the long-range forecast when I come back.
This city doesn't just stop south of Elizabeth Avenue.
Actually take the tax burden off of residents.
Senior bureaucrats in the city, their salaries, in my opinion, are getting out of whack.
People on council who have the knowledge of engineering and planning.
I'll meet the 4 candidates running for councillor in the Ward 4 by-election. That's still to come. There are 4 candidates competing for a spot on St. John City Council. The Ward 4 by-election results will be announced tomorrow. The winner will replace Ian Froud, who resigned in December, and we asked each of the 4 candidates to give us their election day pitch to voters. Here's what they had to say.
I'm running because I believe my skill set, what I bring to the table, is what Ward 4 needs right now. After a number of years, we're hearing a lot of complaints on the doors. People saying that they feel ignored, they feel forgotten, they feel left out. A lot of people are saying, hey, we need a councillor who knows that this city doesn't just stop south of Elizabeth Avenue. We are well beyond that. I'm running because this is my home. I've lived in this ward for the past number of years. I grew up here. My family's owned a home in this ward since 1966, and that's the house that I live in right now. I see what's going on with the city. I'm not one who's going to say, hey, I'm going to come in and let's just bulldoze everything and change it, but I think there's things we can do differently. I believe that we need a better representative at City Hall, someone who's going to actually answer emails and phone calls. And it sounds simple, but it's unfortunately a concept that for a lot of politicians, it's been a little difficult for them.
So for me, I think that we actually need to have a pragmatic, practical, and progressive voice in City Hall. We can't go in and throw our hands in the air and think that we're going to radically reform everything that's done. And we also shouldn't go into City Hall expecting to just kind of go with the flow. It's not going to get us the results we need, and it's not going to get us the results that the citizens of this city and of Ward 4 want. So for me, there's a couple of key things that come front to mind in policy that I think that we can change our city and actually take the tax burden off of residents while making sure that we have wonderful services. So for me, I think a couple of those reforms that I'd like to see is the huge, enormous subsidy for St. John's Sport and Entertainment, which is at $6.7 million. If you equate a subsidy of that rate for 5 years or more, you could build a Mile 1 Centre, Mary Brown Centre, even with the inflation price of what we built it back in '99. But there's many of other things that I want to see done on snow clearing, accessible transit, and making our transit fleet more efficient here in St. John's.
Present council, since it's been elected in 2021, has increased taxes twice, hasn't made any efforts to share the pain at all for the taxpayers, and as well unanimously has voted in favor of tax increases, which is not common if you go back over the years. Well, the first thing I'd like to do is get in and have a look at how we're spending the money. Can it be done more efficiently? And have full transparency. In particular, the senior bureaucrats in the city, their salaries, in my opinion, are getting out of whack.
So I've been doing advocacy for the last 2.5 years, urban planning and policy advocacy for safer streets. I started a not-for-profit, College Streets Are for People. I've been working with all sorts of groups like Metrobus, Happy City St. John's, Accessibility NL, meeting with lots of advocates like Hope Jameson, and what I've discovered is there is a need for, let's call them like people with construction and planning experience being advocates. So that's the role I tried to fill. We need people on council who have the knowledge of engineering and planning and basically urban planning policy to correctly and adequately assess what city staff is doing and to correctly dictate to city staff what they need to do. So many times city staff will ask a question without the basis of proper knowledge to make city staff do the correct task. City staff does their work, come back, they go back to city council looks at it and just rubber stamps it without correctly analyzing what was done.
Let's return now to St. John's International Airport, where just a few minutes ago, Brad Gushue and Mark Nichols arrived home. Team Canada is once again bringing home the Brier. As we reported earlier, it was a history-making win last night in Regina. Our Mike Moore caught up with Team Canada as soon as they touched down.
This one's, kind of a history maker. Can you tell us, how it felt in the moment when you knew you had it in the bag?
Yeah, it was exciting when I saw the last rock make contact. I knew we were up by 4, and even if they didn't shake, we were probably going to finish them off in the last end. So I felt pretty confident. And when they put their hands out, it was kind of like a breath of fresh air. Like it was like, that we finally did it and we pulled it off. And to win 6 and 3 in a row, like those are impressive things. But to be honest, we never went in there that being our target. It was always just we wanted to win this event. We wanted to have a great week. We wanted to have that moment in the final, and we did that.
What was the support like in Regina, and then knowing that all the curling hounds back here, everybody's fired up, like this is going to be a big Brier? What was the support like?
Yeah, we always have great support no matter where we are, and we were in Saskatchewan playing Team Saskatchewan, and we still had great support. Obviously they had a little bit more playing at home, but we had a lot of people there cheering us on with Canada flags, with Newfoundland flags, and our jerseys on. So it was awesome, and obviously we know there's support here at home, and people were watching and got a ton of messages and lots of stuff on social media, which is nice to see.
What's coming up? We know that you got a little bit of a break, but then right back into it. What's on the horizon?
Yeah, it's a really quick turnaround. They want us to leave in less than 2 weeks to head over to Switzerland and get accustomed to the time change and get some practice in. So we don't have the schedule finalized, but I know it's going to be a quick turnaround. I think we're going to probably take this week off and let the body rest up and recharge, and then we'll probably only have a week maybe to get ramped up for the World. So, we've done this before. We're used to it. I don't love it, but it's, we've done it before, and we'll have it figured out.
Hard to put into words. I think, you grow up watching those guys and idolizing them and hoping to even get to play against them, and now you're in the same conversation as them. It's pretty cool. That's for other people to decide, I think. There's always going to be arguments about who's number 1, number 2. Everyone's list is a little bit different. Doesn't really bother me either way. Just being mentioned in the same breath is pretty sweet.
Describe that moment, the final rock, final end, that you're, going to move up the list and tie Furby, all time. When that rock settles, what was going through your head? How was that moment?
A lot of relief, I think. It was, we started off so well, and then there was that little bit, a couple ends in the middle there where it was a little bit scary, and Brad saved us. And once Team Saskatchewan reached out to shake hands and concede, there's a lot of relief, and then just the excitement and the celebration of being able to, now we're 6-time winners.
Well, Britain is used to seeing photos of the royals by now, but one this weekend is making international headlines. It started out innocently enough, a family picture for Britain's Mother's Day. The Princess of Wales looked well, quelling some speculation around her January surgery, but on close inspection, Princess Charlotte's left hand didn't quite line up with her arm, and a zipper was out of place. News agencies pulled the picture, citing likely manipulation. And today it was the talk of the tabloids. Kate has confessed to the edit and apologized for any confusion. Okay, time for a look at the long-range forecast, but we do have some rain coming tonight. It's going to be pretty messy out there with all the snow that's on the ground. And
yeah, and if you haven't dealt with it, it's going to get very heavy.
Right.
The good news is the temperatures are going to be warm over the next little bit, relatively speaking.
So you think it's going to cause a lot of
melting? Yeah, for sure. Let's take a look at the forecast. But, you know, at the end of the day, we're in March already, and we've got a higher sun angle. And even though it's cloudy, we're still seeing some of that heat from the sun melting the snow along with these milder temperatures. So we will see the snow melt much faster than, say, the snow fell in January. So if we take a look at what's happening for Tuesday evening and into Wednesday, that area of low pressure that's starting to affect us today is going to continue to affect us on Wednesday, rather. And we're going to see some more snow for the northern peninsula east and in the higher elevations on the west coast. This is where we're talking about the potential for 50, 60, maybe even 70 centimeters of snow. And then as far as the rest of the northeast coast is concerned, we're going to see some of that snow potentially dip further south through the afternoon, and potentially even here in the northern portion of the Avalon. At this point, it looks like some snow, but it will be a really wet snow with the potential for later on in the day. But overall, our temperatures are going to be above zero. Like I said, 2 to about 3 degrees. A little warmer, though, for those of you in that offshore flow. This is when we start to see some of the nicer weather, because you see that offshore flow and your temperatures get to warm up a little bit more. So about 6 degrees in Port aux Basques, with the best chance of seeing the sun through Wednesday. Labrador, you're also going to be relatively mild. Happy Valley Goose Bay at about +5 through the day. Mix of sun and cloud. Mostly cloudy, though. But some peaks of sun will be in the mix. And then we're looking at some snow for coastal areas of the Big Land. As we head into Wednesday evening and Thursday, again, still going to see some precipitation from that area of low pressure. It will eventually end through the morning. Still looking at the chances some flurries, that northerly flow sticking around through Thursday, but the best chance of seeing that snow again, or some flurries, will be along the northeast coast and through portions of central as well. Labrador, the chances some flurries for the west that will move in late day. And again, our temperatures are going to be hovering around the 1 degree mark for those of you in the west, maybe 2 degrees through central. Coastal areas still into the minus single digits. And then above zero again across the island. 1 to 3 degrees will be your daytime highs on Thursday. Long-range forecast not showing a dip in those temperatures other than the overnight until Friday. And then it is going to be a gray bunch of days with some flurries both Friday and Saturday at this point. And then for central Newfoundland, a little bit more cloudy on Friday and Saturday. Temperatures between 1 and 2 degrees right across the board, but dipping overnight by the time we get into the end of the week. And then for western Newfoundland, you're looking at temperatures between 2 and 3 degrees above zero as well. Your overnight lows between -3 and -9 through the week. Now for Labrador, the east anyway, we'll see temperatures between 2 and 3 degrees. Not great, really, for the fact that there isn't a whole lot of snow, and this isn't helping the situation. But for western Labrador, you are looking at flurries or light snow right through Saturday. I don't see anything super significant, but you could pick up about 20 centimeters over that period of time, and your temperatures will be sitting below zero. This is Lacey, and Lacey loves the snow. Thomas shared this photo to me from Torbay there. Thank you so much for that. If you have any weather photos you'd like to share with us, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Oh, love that. And it fits in perfectly because we want to leave you with a little bit more dog news. From one sweet dog to another, a dog show in England has settled the age-old question of who's a good boy, for this year at least. Just have a look.
There are some very special dogs here.
There
it is Viking. It's the Australian Shepherd.
Oh, what a beauty. This Australian Shepherd named Viking has been crowned the best at this year's Crufts Dog Show. The second prize was snagged by Zen, a Jack Russell Terrier. So sweet.
Yeah, this famous competition invites different breeds to show off their abilities and skills, and nearly 20,000 dogs competed during the 4-day event in Birmingham. I can't say that word.
What? Yeah, we just had, anyone who watches the show knows that we love dogs. So
Oh
we
my
just wanted
goodness,
to end
do
on
we
that
ever
little
love
note.
dogs?
Yeah, for sure.
The best.
Dogs not loving the snow, though, I must say right now. I'm looking forward to a bit of a cut in the snow so my dogs can get around the backyard.
Or at least, pat it down.
Yeah, stomp it down.
Not fun when they're sinking.
Yeah. All right, well, that's it for us. Thank you so much for spending part of your evening with us.
Thank you.